We're going to talk about how in the city of New York we secure web applications through a process we call the accreditation process. And I'm Roman Garber. I lead the application security effort for City of New York, and this is my boss.
I'm David Stern. I wear many hats. It's kind of a joke. I am the manager of security engineering operations, and I handle incident response in there as well. So one of the things that I do is I manage the accreditation process, and Roman does the majority of the work. But in any event, so City of New York, it's the one of the largest IT environments that I've ever worked in. City literally never sleeps, I can tell you, because my phone goes off at 3 o'clock in the morning. The city has about 100 agencies, does everything from picking up garbage, putting out fires, stopping crime. Thousands of locations, 300,000 employees, not all of whom have computers, but interact with the city anyway. 10,000 applications is probably a very low-end number. You wouldn't believe, out of all these 100 agencies, how many have lots of their own applications. 10 million users. Every citizen of the city of New York has to interact with government in one form or another. And the way things have been going with the mayor's efforts over the past 8 years, a lot of that interaction has to go on through the web. So at least 10 million users. Trillions and trillions of data points. We collect everything about the citizens of New York multiple times. So lots of data. I just like to always throw in the multiple OC192 networks. One of the things that DoIT does, we work for an agency called DoIT. It's the Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications. We're the city's big IT services organization. And one of the smaller jobs we do is we, for some reason, have to franchise cable companies and payphone companies. Yes, there's actually still payphones out on the street. And one of the rules when the cable companies were digging up the streets trying to put in fiber, they had to give some to the city. So the city owns its own DWDM network, which is very good because at the end of the day we can drop 100 meg and gig links to any building that we have a presence at, and that's a lot of data that can run across that. And I like to say we have every database, every operating system, every hardware platform since the 50s. If there's a PDP-11 with a network card in some basement someplace, it's probably in the city. Oh yeah, and we have one mayor. And he's certainly one of the most progressive IT mayors, I think, in history, and I'm not just saying that because he pays my paycheck. So because Roman will talk about the problem that we have.
So the problem, basically, what is the problem? So everybody has to deal with local government in one way or another, in some capacity, some form. Everyone remembers, long lines, taking numbers, and, come back next day, and so on. So under the current mayor, we are, trying to change it all, and basically trying to replace lines with the web browser. And this whole program is called Transparency of Government, which basically is supposed to ease citizen interaction with the government. What does it really involve? What does it mean for us as as IT workers, as the Department of Technology? That really means that we're basically exposing traditional closed applications to the internet. We're replacing paper processes with web browsers. We're replacing dinosaur applications with new applications. Basically overhauling the whole application environment. And we have to do it fast. And as always in the fast-paced IT development environment, security pretty much is always lacking. There's lack of security expertise. There's lack of just basic programming practices. And really, you can't put security as a functional requirement in many of these applications because it's just not something that these developers are reporting on. They need to produce results fast, and sometimes security is overlooked. So basically, what are some of the examples of the applications that we deal with? And Dave's going to talk about one of them.
Right. So the three we chose to talk about today a little bit are fairly typical of what the mayor is trying to do. And just to hone on one point that Roman said, not all the applications are being exposed to the internet and being rebuilt. Some of them are just being exposed to the internet. So that adds its own challenges. So let's talk about the clerk's marriage application. The clerk of the city of New York is responsible for marrying people. And that involves getting online in a dingy old building in Manhattan and waiting on long lines, filling out lots of paperwork. So the city I don't know if it's open yet, but built a beautiful new marriage complex where you go to get married. The other little piece of information is that Vegas, I think, is the #1 spot in the world to get married. So New York is number 2. So, and people come from all over the world to get married in New York. New York has a 24-hour waiting period. So what traditionally you would have to do is wait on your long line in some dingy building, fill out your initial paperwork, go away, come back 24 hours later. If you still want to get married, you then go on through the process. So if you're coming from a foreign country because you want to get married in the city of New York, you got to come a couple days early, and you got to hang out doing nothing, waiting for all that stuff to clear. So the idea here is you're sitting in Germany and you want to get married in New York. So 24 hours before, you're going to get on your plane, you fill out all the initial information, gives you a little ticket number, kind of like at the DMV. You show up at the marriage bureau with that ticket number, you walk over to a kiosk and you punch in that ticket number, and it comes up with pretty much puts you on the board. Again, similar to the DMV. So first, your number pops up over one little booth, and you walk over to that booth, you do your business at that booth. Then when that's on the ticket, rolls across the room and goes to over a chapel, and you walk over to the chapel and you get done over there. And I imagine there's pictures and stuff that goes on as well. But so that's a process. But part of that process again is exposing things to the internet. And if you can just imagine what happens, this is an official record. Theoretically, a malicious user would be able to create a marriage that was never there, or even worse, depending on whose aspect it is, make marriages go away. And we certainly, it was actually a very, very important thing on it. The initial meeting that we had about this was a major concern, that we're taking a system of record that is traditionally paper-based, that's very important to people, and exposing it to the internet. So we help them make it so that I think it is a fairly solid and fairly secure. And again, the idea, even if you bring, so you have the business partner who's the clerks, and they know how the paperwork rolls to get married. And you bring in a vendor who's going to create this, and unless you tell them otherwise, they're just going to come up with the easiest shared infrastructure that you may have. They're going to come up with the simplest, most monolithic code that they can. They're going to put it all in one thing and try to punch into the internet over here and punch it internally over here and walk away and make a lot of money. And that's not what we allowed them to do. And we pushed them, and it works now, and it works fairly well. But again, and we'll go on later through what process we used to go through that. But if we didn't have this process, you wouldn't have this application, is what it comes down to.
One of the other applications, 311 on the web. Those who live in New York probably know what 311 is, at least probably called once or twice. Those that don't, 311 is basically a system for dealing with any city matter that is non-emergency. Fixing potholes, broken trees, reporting a noisy neighbor, whatever else, you call 311, finding out whether alternative sites of parking are in effect or not, call 311. And traditionally, this is something that that was done over the phone. It's about 45,000 average calls per day that we handle, and what's being done to it is it basically gets put on the web. So now, what you are able to do just over the phone, you'll be able to log in via web browser to report a tree broken, or you'll even be able to send a picture of a pothole somewhere and say, okay, there's a pothole, now report the pothole. Importance of that information.